Julie, law professor and Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley has a warning about the president's emails. He's out with a new op-ed titled "Biden's Use of Fake Names in Email Could Cost Him." Matt Whitaker, the former acting attorney general, is here with us this morning. Matt, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So what can compel these emails to be released? Do you think they will be released?
Yeah, they're going to get some of this. I mean, right now they're being reviewed by President Biden's team, and they're going to redact things that they claim executive privilege on, or maybe even the to from. The interesting thing about these emails is two of them are Gmail accounts, which I think Congress could directly subpoena Google and get those emails. And it is concerning that the vice president's office was doing business on Gmail. That is usually a no-no for official business. You're supposed to use, the official email channels. But this case continues to develop, and I think ultimately, especially if it's an impeachment inquiry, there's going to be significant documents, including these emails, turned over.
When you look at what's subject here, what could become public, and you'd mentioned, and we saw there from David's report, that a lot of this had to do with Gmail addresses. Yeah. If the vice president, then vice president, is speaking about just to his son and having personal conversations, does that fall under a public record? But if it's with the National Archives, then it must be a public record.
So it's kind of sounding vaguely familiar, a little bit like the Hillary Clinton private email server, because remember, there is a distinction between just truly personal business, which again you can conduct, and nobody should be able to see that ultimately, and then official business. And my understanding of some of these documents, they were the vice president's office telling Hunter Biden about the president's schedule, potentially about Ukraine policy, and things that would have been of interest to his business arrangements. And I think that's where the rubber meets the road, and where the House Oversight Committee is really trying to dig in and get that information, because right now we've heard just little snippets of it, but ultimately, if that's the case, then this could be an explosion heard all over D.C. and beyond.
Yeah, here's what we've got from Republicans. This is Congresswoman Claudia Tenney speaking about this.
You have all this money going to the Biden family, not because they're all experts. Certainly, Hunter Biden's not an expert on energy. Joe Biden is an arrogant guy who can't control his mouth. And that's what I think that everything about that reveals exactly who Joe Biden is.
So we are at a point now where House Republicans have been in this investigation for several months, several years now, a few years now. But there is no direct link. But still having this relationship where you've got what Republicans say is money going to family members, it doesn't look good.
Well, not only does it not look good, but there is circumstantial evidence. For example, Hunter Biden was texting with his sister saying, essentially, I have to give 50% of my income to Dad, to the vice president. And that is a meaningful piece of information, a piece of evidence in this overall scheme, it appears, where Hunter Biden is getting $1 million a year, the equivalent of it, from Burisma. He's getting several $1 million from the wife of the former mayor of Moscow. And then there's a dinner that followed that between Vice President Biden and this individual. And so there's a lot of smoke, and there's a lot of things, a lot of circumstantial evidence. And, as a former prosecutor myself, I can tell you these are where you want to dig in. And ultimately, I'm not sure we'll ever have the smoking gun, the direct evidence where Joe Biden admits that this was the scheme. But to me, the points of the connections are being made right now as we speak.
Do you think that Republicans, and given in the conference there are a number of Republicans who are calling for an impeachment inquiry, is that premature at this point, since we do not have that evidence?
Yeah, the last I heard from Speaker McCarthy is that he is going to take a vote on the impeachment inquiry and see if he can get the 218. And if you think about kind of that caucus and how, you have folks that are very much would vote right now to make that happen, and others that are maybe a little more hesitant, that may be a good deliberate move. I'm not sure there are 218 members of the House that would vote for that. And if that's the case, then it's not going to proceed. But, Kevin McCarthy is a very careful tactician, and I think he'll, try to see where the mood of the caucus is. It's like herding cats at that level.
Yeah. Sometimes I bet you he wishes it was like herding cats. Might be a little easier. Matt Whitaker, thanks so much for joining us.
Rich.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.